I was at a different publication, and it was not about defamation. It was about copyright infringement. It was about use of a photo. I got in trouble for that. Like, there was an actual lawsuit because of that.
Wow.
Like, I had to be, when you sit there and you talk to the attorney. And
yeah, subpoenaed.
Girl, yes, like hours long. And that was my wake-up call back in the day. I knew better about, obviously I'm not going to copyright and steal anybody's words, but I found this picture on the internet and I was like, oh, this should be fine. This is a picture of a celebrity. No, because the source was wrong. It was somebody who stole the picture
from somebody else.
I used it. So then the company I was working for got in trouble. This was not possible. And then I got in trouble. I had somebody show up at my door like, hey, you've been served. And I'm like,
what?
Like, and it was for $50,000. I was like, I don't have $50,000.
Right.
What am I gonna do?
5, 4, 3, 2. Ayo, tell them folks it's bedtime. Lights out. We in all.
Cheers, everybody. Welcome to another amazing edition of the Cool Soror podcast. I am your host, Rashan Ali, and this is an opportunity where we get to hear the stories, the trials, the tribulations, all of the joy and the glory from women in Black Greek letter organizations. That's what this is all about. And I'm so very excited to have the managing editor of Bossip.com, who is also my soror. Go ahead and tell the people what sorority that is.
Alpha. Kappa. Alpha. Sorority.
And what is it?
Incorporated.
Thank you kindly. Dani Canada, how are you today?
I'm doing well, so Rashan, how are you?
I'm doing fabulous. First of all, every time I see this bob in your face, it like matches.
Thank you. It's my favorite
It's your signature, right?
It's my signature at this point. Like I change it from time to time and I come right back.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna keep it.
It works very well for your face.
And people remember it. They're like, yeah, Dani, with the bangs.
With the bangs, and the bob, and the good bob.
Yeah.
Right, because the good bobs were back in the 1990s, I had me a good little asymmetric with the shade in the back.
Little shave on the side.
You know what I'm talking about?
Doing it like that.
Yeah.
Okay, that was
You know what I'm talking about?
I do.
Yeah.
I know.
I see that ATL coming out.
Watch it. You see it?
Yeah. See, everybody doesn't know how to really, do both.
No, they don't.
We can be very professional.
Okay.
And then the thing just come out.
And then it just come out like that. And you be like, I want a little bob or something. You know what I'm saying? A little movement in the hair.
What?
That
what it do?
It the bob for me.
It the bob for me.
It the bob for me.
It the bob for me. Yes.
Don't get me started, Rashan.
I know. Let me tell you something. I can be very honest with you. I look at Bossip every day.
Do you really?
Even though I'm not in the space of entertainment anymore.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
But I look at it every day just so I can be abreast of what's going on in entertainment.
Thank you.
How did you become so enamored of the entertainment life?
Oh, that's a good question. So I knew I always wanted to work in media. And actually growing up, I knew that I wanted to be Oprah. Not like Oprah.
You want to be
her.
Oprah, right?
Like I was like in second grade and, I was like, oh, I'm going to be Oprah. We had like a dress up day. I did like the bob again.
Right.
And I had like a microphone. I was like, I'm Oprah Winfrey. And, so that was always my dream was to work in media. And then it just turned into entertainment journalism after I graduated from Hampton University.
Come on, HU.
Come on now. And I studied at the Scripps Howard School of Journalism. And, of course, we had to study like the hard news side.
Ooh, I hated that part.
Oh, it was not my
awful.
favorite.
Can't take it.
Traffic on I-10 today. And I'm like, it's not for me. But I loved entertainment news. And I was working at the radio station at the time, did all 4 years at Hampton. And while I was there, we'd always do like an entertainment report. And I loved that part of it.
Yes.
So after I graduated, I got an internship unpaid because they didn't pay people back then.
Right, still don't. Some people, it's fine.
It's changed a little bit, not that much. But at hiphopwire.com.
Come on.
And so that was my first taste of really working in like celebrity news. And then from there, I started as an intern and then they're like, well, you're good. We'll make you a staff writer. And I was like, okay. And they're like, okay, well, you're really good. So we're going to make you a senior writer. And I was like, okay. And then it was like, well, you're really, really good. You're assistant editor. I'm like, okay, cool. And so everything I've had has just grown from there. But I always knew after going to college and really studying like journalism and entertainment was like for me.
It's crazy because I used to like when I was in radio, Hip Hop Wire was one of our sources.
Really?
Oh yeah, when I was at Hot, for
Wow.
sure, because it was
Great.
all about hip hop news. And I'm sure
Yeah.
back then you were probably
Mhm.
working
We
at Hip
had-
Hop Wire.
We had a skeleton crew. Like we started off with like 3 people. Like,
Yeah.
and we literally like pressed publish on the first story that ever went up on there. Like we built it from the ground up.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was us back then.
And so now that when you hear, because I get it all the time, I literally probably have a text right now in my phone that's saying, hey, this is such and such, and she wants to get in entertainment news and all that stuff. You know, it's not that easy to get into.
No, it's not that easy.
And you got to
to
put in a lot of work to be, first of all, credible, and then
Yes.
secondly, be good at it.
Oh, yes.
When you hear a young woman who wants to get in entertainment, because all the young journalists are very interested in, a lot of them are interested in entertainment news, how do you separate the good from the great and the ones that really have the
Oh,
potential?
that's a good question. I will say this. There are, like you said, a lot of people who want to get into it, but there are a lot of people who want to get into it because they think it's glamorous, or I want to get the followers on Instagram. I want to be cool. And so when I look at people who want to get into this business, I do look for the ones that are willing to do the work and the ones who just have a real passion for it. And they're
Right.
not out here just being like, well, I just want to get the page views. I'm gonna put anything out, then I'm gonna end up getting sued, and then I'll be up without a job, and then you're looking crazy. So I look for the people who actually have a passion for the news and actually like getting it right and cross their T's and dot their I's.
Yeah.
Like I can't emphasize that enough. We've literally seen people recently get sued and lose millions.
I saw that.
Yes,
Yeah.
because I'm like, you can't just be out here writing anything. I think people have it misconstrued. They're like, oh, I can just go out here and say what I want. And I'm like, no, I mean, you could, but
Right.
I wouldn't advise you to.
And what you're alluding to is Cardi B, who really stood up for herself. There was a blogger who was literally
spewing lies. Going crazy.
And Cardi was like, no, you're
No.
not going to do it. A lot of celebrities don't take that step because they
They
feel
sure
like it's going to
don't.
be costly and
Yep.
all of that. When you look at situations like that, what do you take from it as a journalist and someone who's a managing editor of a very popular website? What do you tell people that are under you, and then for yourself to make sure that you don't make those mistakes as well?
So for me, I tell people, number one, be careful. Like in my job capacity, I'm literally looking at people's stories and going through them and picking through and figuring out. And I'm always like, number one, cite your sources.
Cite your sources.
Cite your sources.
Because a lot of young journalists say, they said, who is they?
Who is they?
Who is they?
Who is they? You have to be so careful. Number one, cite your sources. Number two, if you don't think something is true, if there's any chance it's not, you better put it reportedly. You better put an allegedly on there, and you'll say, according to so-and-so, they said this. But make sure you are covering your tracks. You know, that's just my number one thing with that. So looking at what happened with Tasha K and Cardi B, for me, I'm like, I never want to be in that situation. It's never that deep for me to be like, oh, well, I want to go viral, or, oh, I want people to follow me, where I'm like burning myself in the process. I want to work in this business for a long time. I look at people like you. I want to be like you.
Oh.
Like, you know, like I don't want to be out here and no one wants to work with me. You know, it looks cute online and on YouTube, but then when you try to get credentials because you want to go and cover something, they're
Yeah.
like, what? Who is this? No.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you don't want to isolate yourself in this business because you were so thirsty for views.
Right.
So for me, what I take from that is it's never that deep. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I've had instances too where I can tell a quick story. I was at a different publication and it was not about defamation. It was about copyright infringement. It was about use of a photo. I got in trouble for that. Like there was an actual lawsuit because of that.
Wow.
Like I had to be, you know, when you sit there and you talk to the attorney and they sit there and talk to you for-
subpoenaed.
girl, yes, like hours long. And that was my wake up call back in the day. I knew better about, you know, obviously I'm not going to copyright and steal anybody's words, but I found this picture on the internet and I was like, oh, this should be fine. You know, this is a picture of a celebrity. No, because the source was wrong. It was somebody who stole the picture
From somebody
else. I used it. So then the company I was working for got in trouble. This was not Bossip. And then I got in trouble. I had somebody show up at my door like, hey, you've been served. And I'm like,
What?
Like, and it was for $50,000. I was like, I don't have $50,000.
Right.
What am I going to do? So luckily, you know, it got thrown out. You know, they ended up settling the company that I was working for with the person who filed the lawsuit, and it was fine. That was a huge wake-up call for me. I was like, oh, this is serious.
Right.
So I don't play when it comes to things like that. With like the staff at Bossip, I'm always like, where did this picture come from? Who said that? what is this? Because I'm like, we're not about to get in a bunch of legal trouble over something silly
Right,
like that. So.
right. And you look at the journeys of like our sister Greek friend, Francesca,
Yes.
who literally
Love
put
her.
in her time in news.
Yep.
Then she created a show of entertainment, and now
Mhm.
she is on red carpets at the Oscars.
With Eve.
But she
It's
put the
amazing.
work in, and I want to go back to
Absolutely.
those young people who are watching the Cool Store
Yes.
podcast, who are members of the D9, and they want to
Mhm.
get in entertainment, but they look at somebody like you, and they look at
Mhm.
like Francesca, and like you're on the platform now, but then they
Mhm.
see Francesca on E, but they don't see all the work she put in.
Absolutely.
Can you speak to the work
Yes.
that has to happen so that people can
Yes.
get to this point?
Yes.
You can't skip the work.
You cannot skip the work. I think that's so key, Rashan. I think a lot of people are like, oh, well, I just graduated and I just want to be where you are. And I'm like, slow down. I know. I was been there before, but I've been in this business since 2009. Like, I'm just now getting to a point where people are like, oh, hey, Dani. Oh, I saw you did. And I'm like, okay, cool. But it is honestly about the work and putting the work in and the quality work in, because you can be out here and you can be doing it and somebody could be reading your stories and be like, oh, well, this isn't very good. And I don't, it is about putting in that quality work and really like doing your due diligence.
Yeah.
That's key to me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And obviously, as a managing editor, you have to do that for people that are under you, but then you
Mhm.
have to do it for yourself. How,
Mhm.
you've been a part of growing Bossip
Mhm.
as a brand. What do you attribute to the growth of Bossip
Yeah.
and knowing that it is a reliable source?
Yes. The growth of Bossip is attributed to, I think we have a great staff, and we have great staff members who have been there. Some people have been there longer than me. I've been with Bossip since 2014. Some people have been there since 2012, 2013. They've been there a very long time. And these are people who went to school for it. I can shout out Alex Ford. He went to Hampton with me. Also worked at the radio station at Hampton. He's great. Jason Lee, Emory graduate. My boss, Janae Bolden, NYU graduate. These are people who have really put in the work. And honestly, we work together to make our content a little different than what you're going to see on the internet. So a lot of the content is acquired. It's like, oh, everyone's covering the same thing. But for us, I think a key point for us when we really took off was when we started doing our headlines. So at one point, we were just using our headlines that were on the website on Twitter. Then our boss took off the training wheels one day. I was like, well, y'all come up with some fun headlines for social media, and what happens? And it just clicked and it took off from there. And I feel like that has attributed to the growth tremendously. I think that has made us stand out. That's led to things like us being like the New York Times, getting TV shows. So I feel like that attributed tremendously to the growth.
And then it's crazy because you guys have like a little pipeline to the Greek life too.
Yeah.
I love when you all show like for Founders Day, like the hottest AKs, the hottest Deltas, the hottest SG Rows, the hottest Zetas. Like, was that something that came from you because you're in that Greek life?
No,
what?
I know, right?
You didn't do that.
I can't even take the credit for that one.
Damn.
I know, right? So we would do here and there, like, oh, let's shout out the Greeks, of course. It's Founders Day.
Right.
This is content that's SEO friendly. This is going to do very well, even outside of just social media, just people Googling, this is going to pop up. But really, Alex Ford has made that into his lane.
Listen.
Every Founders Day, you're going to get
trying,
some kind of
post. Am I going to be on there? Look, my post was real cute today. Am I going to make it? But they be looking for the young girls.
No, girl, please. You can be the featured image. The hottest AKA babes in the game. Yeah, no, it is something we make a point to do. We love the Greeks at Bossip. I'm the only Greek on staff. I'm thinking now. I'm like, I'm the only Greek on staff. But yeah, like we make it a point to show that love because first of all, we are Black owned.
Yes.
And so we always want to make sure we are shouting out our people, and especially on Founders Day.
Yeah. So, that's great. So Hampton, sorry. I was about to form my mouth.
I heard it. And then you got it.
I'm sorry. I caught myself.
People do it all the time. I get it.
The HU rivalry. How deep is it? Because FAMU has a deep, rivalry with BCC.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. BCU because they would get me.
I remember when they used to be BCC, but now it's university down there.
Yes, it's university.
Yes.
I know it's fun, but like, people always, people are going to, Howard always gets the money. They always get the publicity. For someone that is a Hampton alum, and you always have to fight this battle. What is it like to fight the battle with The Mecca.
The Mecca. Honestly, it's not that deep.
Okay.
It is, you know what? I love Howard. I understand Howard, you know. I'm like, of course you can have pride. It's Howard. You know, I looked at Howard, ended up ultimately at Hampton, and I love the decision that I made. But
Yeah.
it's a fun rivalry for me to at this point. Like, number one, Hampton doesn't really we don't call ourselves HU, at least not back in my day.
Okay.
You know, we were HIU. And we like that
Hampton
because
Institute. Yeah.
University. So like we like having that notion, like, oh, that ain't us. We different. Like
Right.
we ain't HU. And so we, you know, really.
It's a thing.
It's
a thing, but not a thing.
But it's cute to be like, okay, Howard. But it's like, ultimately, I'm like, I love them. They're cool.
Yeah.
They're cool with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Out of all the stories that you've been able to cover, what was the hardest?
Okay, I'm just gonna go with just popped in my head. So before I was at Bossip, I was at another publication in between Hip Hop Wired and Bossip, and I remember there was a story that came out, and I'm sure everyone remembers. It's when Usher's stepson passed away, Tamika Raymond's son.
Oh yeah, that was tough.
That was awful, and I remember we kept covering what happened, and then unfortunately the baby did pass away.
Right.
And my job was like, go to the funeral and you're gonna talk to people at the funeral and see what and I'm like,
no, I'm not.
I was like, why would I? So it was so, first of all, it was heartbreaking because it's like, what is there to even say?
Like,
you know?
Yeah. What kind of questions do you ask?
Like, how do you feel right now? Terrible. I'm sad. I'm grieving. So to me, that one was just like, so I went, we got, you know, obviously coverage of what happened. You know, but at some point I was like, I'm not about to bother these people in their time of mourning. It's too much.
Yeah.
You know, I was just like, this is what happened. You know, a few passerbys were like, we just want to send our condolences over what happened. And that was it. Cause I was like, I'm not about to sit here and bother people for something like that. And I think that is one of those cases where it's like, yes, you want to get the story. Yes, you want to get the views, but you got to pick and choose. Like everything.
There's a humanity part of it.
That part.
That really needs to continue to take the forefront.
Absolutely.
And how do you make sure that you do that at Bossip? Because I know that, you know, it's all about getting that story. And you guys are competing with, of course, the Shade Room, and then ultimately the big giant, TMZ, of course. But you have a very centralized demographic, which you got to be like, they got to come here. What is that key to making sure people have that? Make sure they click on Bossip.com. And then I see how y'all do. Y'all be wanting a little clickbait. I see.
You see it a little
bit. I got 10 stories in this in this whole story. I understand. Let me go ahead and give them clicks.
You see it, right?
I get it.
You see it. Listen,
yeah. Well, how do you guarantee or how do you make sure that your core audience, make sure we come to Bossip.com every day?
So we make sure that we are giving people what they do want to see. Obviously the headlines, obviously if something big happens, like you have the Greek post, you know, you're going to get that there. We just make sure we lean into what our audience wants to see. So our audience, they want to see the funny headlines. You know, they want to see the bae of the day.
They love that.
They love that, but the celeb looking sexy.
Right.
But then we also want to make sure we balance and we talk about, you know, what's trending. So we look at every day. My job consists of me going on Google Trends and it's looking at what is being searched for. And then I go for Twitter. I look at the Twitter trends. I look at what people are looking at. So we just want to make sure everything we're writing is current and is keeping up with what people want to see in pop culture news.
Yeah.
That's really the key of it. Is like, you know, you could write a story about, I don't know, something, but you want to focus on what people want to read, you know? And so I think it shows because when we look at our numbers, our traffic is organic. A lot of it is people just searching Bossip.com, you know, and then some of it is, I saw this on Twitter. Let me make sure I click and go and read that.
Right. So let's talk about you, Dani.
Yes.
Like, you know, a seemingly beautiful upbringing and you go to college or whatever. What moves you? Like, who is Dani outside of Bossip.com? Because you've come on Sister Circle. You are our gossip queen with Miss Quad. First of all, I love those segments. They were absolutely amazing. Every time we knew you were coming, we were like, yes, Dani coming. That's gonna be a good segment. We knew it. We knew it because you came ready every single time. But who is Dani outside of all the gossip and telling other people's lives? Telling what happens in other people's lives.
Dani is, I'm just a good old Georgia Peach.
Yeah.
I'm a sister. I have an older sister named Jennifer. She's amazing. I'm Kevin and Janine's daughter. Kevin and Janine are graduates from not Clark Atlanta,
Atlanta University. My daddy got his master's from Atlanta University.
That's where my parents met.
Right.
They met at Atlanta University's business school, darling.
Come on now.
So they're very big on that. Dani outside of work, Dani is just regular, everyday Georgia girl out here being a little bit nosy, seeing what celebs got going on. But I just like my life simple. I don't do drama. I like to have fun. I have lots of friends.
Yeah.
I love what I do. I love my work. I love working in television. I love writing. So that's me. Like in a summary, I'm just, regular degular.
When you do see the celebrities out, because they know that they could potentially be a story by the clubs you may frequent or the events that you attend. How do you keep that balance of, I'm still cool Dani, but do one thing. And you might just be a headline.
Right.
How do you keep the balance?
I balance it. I think they know. Like, I'm like, now I gotta write about that if you're gonna do it. But I think the balance is just staying true to myself. Like everything is not a story. I always say that. I'm like, I'm not gonna put your business out there. Everybody doesn't need to know everything that's going on. I remember years ago I was at Essence and I met Ava DuVernay, our soror.
Yes.
And I remember I was talking to her. First of all, I was starstruck because I love her.
Right.
But I pulled her to the side and I'm like, look, I know, I work for Bossip, but I was like, I will do what I can to protect you. I was like, we don't have to be out here writing anything crazy. Not that she does anything crazy. Right. But I'm just like, I got you. Like, you're good. Like, I want to be someone that people can trust.
Right.
I also want to be someone that people can use if they want to use me and be like, hey, an anonymous source says, we've had people do that where they just give us a little gentle nudge like, hey, you might want to check the court documents today because maybe somebody filed for divorce. Me. So, things like that. I just want to be able to be like someone that they can ultimately trust while doing my job. That's
right. Right. That's beautiful. So while you were at Hampton, I'm pretty sure, I don't know, were the AKs on the yard?
Yes.
They were.
Girl, they were. You want to hear about it?
No, I don't. Let's keep it PG.
No.
I know, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
No.
So, but you ended up becoming a member in the graduate chapter.
Yes.
A lot of people, being undergrad has a lot that comes with it.
Correct.
It just depends on the chapter. It depends on the circumstances of what's going on. What was your decision to forego that and do it on the graduate level?
Well, Rashan, I always knew I wanted to be an AKA.
Okay.
I've never wavered from that.
Yes.
It started when I was in second grade. It's so funny because we talk now and it's crazy. My teacher, Miss Karen Hanley.
Hey, Miss Hanley.
Yes. She was an AKA and I just loved her. I thought she was so smart and so classy and so beautiful. And I saw her driving away from school one day and she had AKA on her license plate. And I asked my mom, I was like, what's an AKA? And she was like, you'll be one day. Don't worry. And I'm like, okay. And then I started looking up AKA and I got enamored, loved it. And then, so I went to college and went to Hampton, obviously, and the AKAs were there. And
she said they were there.
They were there. I went out for AKA sophomore year, and this is just fact. It is what it is. They had a line of 65 girls, 63 were legacy. The other 2 girls were seniors. So there was no hope there. That was never going to happen. And then senior year, there was supposed to be a line and then it got canceled. Like the day of, we're literally lining up for Rush. And then we see a sign on the door like, Rush has been canceled. And it was like, okay, well, there's that. But prior to that, back in Marietta, I had been doing some work with the chapter Rosette Omega.
Yes, Rosette Omega. And you're in the chapter. Wow. That's the Cobb County chapter. Yes. I should be in that chapter, but I'm not.
Yes, Rosette Omega. And they actually gave me a scholarship when it was time for me to go to Hampton. And so I knew several of the members. And so after I graduated, I remember I talked to my now soror, Emma Bird. And, I just was mentioning like, didn't work out at Hampton. But, if you guys ever need volunteers for anything, that's how I framed it. If you need volunteers for anything,
yes,
let me know. And so she was like, are you interested? And I was like, yes, I'm so interested. So then, went from there. And so, so I came out in 2014 and it was amazing. Shout out to Catch 22.
Come on.
And it was an amazing amazing experience. And I'm actually really glad that I got to come back to Rose de Omega.
Yeah.
It just makes it all the sweeter because this is a chapter I'd known, you know, they gave me a scholarship. And so just to be able to come home to them felt really
You're
good.
a story. You're
Yeah.
one of those stories that, hey, we gave her a scholarship when she was in high school. She went away to college and she came back and became, you know, and really came through this chapter. So I think I love people that may not have had or seen something great on their campus or something happened on their campus, but they still stay true to what they wanted to do.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of people want to be initiated into the chapters and not the organizations.
Oh, that's a
These
good
are facts,
one.
I'm
Ooh,
speaking
that's
facts.
a good one. That is so true.
I've been at AKA for 27 years. I can speak all facts.
Absolutely.
All
you
facts.
know. You know.
I already know. I already know. So that I'm really happy that you did
Thank
that.
you. Me
So
too.
when you look at your life and your span of life, I know that, you know, being the managing editor of Bossip.com and you guest host on Social Society, right? And like all of these different shows, including Sister Circle and a plethora of other shows. Without like saying, okay, thank you, Bossip. What does Dani want from all of this?
Yes.
Without saying, without discrediting where you are, but knowing where you want to go.
Right.
What does Dani want?
So yeah, not to discredit where I am right now. I love my job. I love my people. They take great care of me and I love them dearly. My ultimate goal has always been to work full-time in television. I think, you know.
You have it.
Yeah.
You got it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I received that. Thank you. Like that has always been my number one passion. We did Bossip on WeTV 2 seasons.
Yes.
We did a season in Atlanta, a season in LA. When I tell you, it was like the best.
I remember because you had to leave us for a minute.
Yes.
People were like, well, she leaving, but she leaving for TV. It's cool.
Right, it's cool, but I'm gonna be back, y'all.
Right,
but
and she was
just an amazing experience. Like that is my passion. That is what I love. Absolutely. So anytime like I get to do Social Society and I'm on set, I'm like, yes, I feel alive.
You're so good at it.
Thank you.
You're really, really good at it. And
Thank
I
you.
see that for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm grateful that you just continue to walk in your, and it's funny because you get to, not funny, it's real because you get to have all of these things because you still get to do your TV segments on Bossip.com, which is beautiful.
Yes,
Yeah.
I do. It's worked out really well. And to me, it's just, there's nothing else I would rather do. I don't think there's anything else I'm made to do.
Yeah.
Really. Like I feel, honestly, I do feel like I am walking in my purpose.
Yeah.
That's great.
You are. And I'm grateful that you walked into this studio
Thank
and
you,
walked into your purpose
Listen.
to be here today for me.
Listen, Rashan, you are Rashan Ali. Girl, I've known Rashan Ali since I was 14 years old.
Oh my
y'all.
God. Don't tell the people
Listen,
how old
I'm just saying. And like, you have always just been such an inspiration.
Thank
and I
you.
mean that. I'm not saying that because I'm sitting in front of you. Like, just from start to finish.
Thank
just
you.
Professional and poised and beautiful and so good at your job. And
Thank
just,
you.
girl, please. Like, you were like, can you come? I was like, yeah. I was like, you know what? Of course I can come. It's Rashan Ali. So
Right.
yes, you're such a legend.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
How can people follow Dani?
Yes.
And then make sure they click on Bossip.com for all their latest gossip and news.
Yes, you can
I just
follow
said it,
me.
didn't I? I did. I just said it. Okay.
I'll give, so the socials for Bossip as well. It's at Bossip Official on Instagram. It's at Bossip on Twitter. And you can follow me at I am Dani Canada on all platforms. That's DANI, Canada like the country.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rashan.
I appreciate it. Can we cheers?
Yes, we can
With our
cheers.
plastic champagne flutes? Yes, cheers. To the one and only Dani Canada on the Cool Store Podcast. Yay.